Aloha, friends and neighbors. Welcome to show 1081. My laryngitis hasn't gotten any better. I apologize for my gravelly voice. We're going to cover a really crappy week in August. The last week in August, it's a tough one for a couple of different reasons, which I will enumerate for you so that you can understand it more and it won't bother you quite so much. Nothing worse than being the victim of something and you don't know what the hell it is. But here's the basics of it. We have Saturn stationing. See, I made him real big here. So when Saturn stops, oh boy, it gets scary. Saturn's the Grim Reaper. He's the judge. He's the great malefic, Mala. And so he takes his swings with the Grim Reaper, with the Sith. He stops and he gets really powerful. He comes back, makes a loop, and he stops and gets really powerful and goes forward. So he'll cover something 3 times. You know, you get a ticket in the car, oh, bummer, and you got to go back the second time and make a pleading. Then you go back the 3rd time and Saturn judges you. He's the cross of matter over the crescent of people. So the judge doesn't care much about your emotional setup. He's about money and physical goods. The cross of matter is money and physical stuff. So physical world dominates the fleshly world. That's what Saturn does. Now he's feeling kind of righteous now because Jupiter's sextiling him. That's the lawyers and professors and rich people, and they say, oh yeah, go ahead and judge. But depending how 21 Sag hits your chart, if it's hitting your chart poorly, you're not going to like it. And you tend not to have enough. There's not enough money, there's not enough time, there's not enough. Gee, good heavens, I run out of cat food today. Not just for my 2 cats, but I got 2-3 other homeless out there I feed every evening. They're all going to go hungry. Eek! That's Saturn, see? So there's your first problem. Now Saturn stops and goes direct. See, it's going backwards and it stops and goes direct. So it's going to go over ground the final time, the final judgment. Yeah. And he stops on the 25th of August. The 25th is Friday for you, a week from where you're at. Now, Saturn gets increasingly difficult as you go up to that. About 20 days before you feel it dries out, colder, depression. This is classical depression. Everybody gets depressed. Drinking alcohol is not a good way to solve depression. Those of you that are legal, pot is excellent. It was listed by Lilly as the herb of choice to combat lack of appetite, depression, etc. So treat yourself. The depression you feel as you come up to the 25th is real. Drink a lot of water, keep yourself hydrated, and the next 20 days after the 25th, it mellows out. I used to watch the gold and silver prices closely, and what I found is that when Saturn stops, the price of gold goes up because everybody gets all insecure and depressed and scared, so they buy gold. Yeah. And that 20 days up, 20 days down happens in the stock market. So there's a problem. We got Saturn making difficulties for us, centered around the 25th, but a week up before that and a week back down, great difficulty. The other problem, of course, is we're facing an eclipse. Now, you've already had an eclipse. A 15-degree Aquarius eclipse happened about a week ago. That was an eclipse of the moon. Eclipse of the moon tends to hurt the queen. But this is a full eclipse of the sun, the death of the king. And father figures in general, the sun is dead for a few minutes as the moon eclipses him. So this is not fun for the sun. No, for the father figures, for the king. Yeah. I saw one eclipse on the Big Island, and I did not like it. I felt like my father had been taken away. There was no God. Everything went quiet. It was a horrible feeling. I don't recommend you go. All the ancient astrologers say don't look at eclipses. Sleep through them. They're evil. An eclipse is the death of the sun, so no good. When's it happen? Well, it happens on the 21st. 21st is Monday at 8:31 a.m. in Hawaii. You won't see it here, thankfully, but I would sleep late. Yes, I can sleep through this bugger at 8:30. Unfortunately, the people on the mainland won't. And we have such a silly bunch of culture freaks right now. I say, 14 civilizations over the last 10,000 years say eclipses are evil. Oh, that's just superstition. Superstitious natives sitting in caves, blah, blah, blah. What's the Beatles line? The fool on the hill sees the sun going down, and the eyes in his head see the world going round. But they call him a fool. So, we're about to learn a hard lesson about eclipses, especially in the U.S. And two things to make this week very momentous. The Saturn station on the 25th, Friday, and the eclipse Monday on the 21st. I'll show you how that affects the U.S. chart in a little bit. But main thing is, we're in Hawaii. We still got a little bit of that hurricane stuff going on. And let's take a look at this day by day, okay? We'll forget all the huge big picture and just look at the daily activities. Try to help you out in the planning of your week, and so that you can adjust your attitude to what's going on. Look out, Freaky Friday. There's Friday the 18th. Starts out very mellow. There's music. Oh, religion, yes. There's a trine to Neptune. Don't let your guard down. In the middle of Friday, the moon opposes Pluto. Eek a bug, panicky. There's a square to Jupiter that's pretty tight. Overdoing it all. Yes. Poor Venus is caught in this trap. Venus squaring Jupiter, opposing Pluto. She's here. Friday night. Friday is Vendrady, Venus's day. Friday night you think, oh boy, it's going to be sexy and neat. And there is some of that. Yeah, there is some of that. But you got to be really careful where you are. And expect if the battery fails or the lights go out, it'd be normal. Which a lot of that will happen all the way through Saturday morning. Because here's the square to Uranus. And we had a lunation there. And Uranus stopped. So we had a lot of sensitive planets here. The Pluto full moon, the new moon squaring Uranus. So your Friday, Saturdays are a mess. Yep. Moon in Virgo. The moon goes into Leo, should shift over. And there's a nice new moon here on Saturday in Leo. That's the old new moon, excuse me. Just a little bit of the last month's lunacy. But Leo is kind of clear, and Saturday mellows out, and so does Sunday. Now, you're going into the eclipse time, which is Monday on that. It's really supposed to be a new moon at 29 Leo. It trines Uranus. There's a lot of independence and freedom here, a lot of genius, a lot of good stuff comes out of this eclipse. But, those guys 12,000, 20, 30,000 years ago knew their astrology. And our modern Western world has thrown the baby out with the bathwater. Oh, just superstition of natives. Wow. All those ancient successful civilizations that went several thousand years, they based it on astrology. The Greeks, the Mayans, the Babylonians, all of them recognized the correspondence. I call it a mirror, sky mirror. It's not causative. It doesn't. The planets don't cause us any more than we cause them. It's a mirror, and that's the wonder of it all. So that's why I call it the sky mirror. Huh? So here's Mars your Sunday afternoon, early afternoon, hits that Mars zone. And everybody goes into action. We're going to be heroes. There's a sextile to Jupiter. There's a trine to Saturn. And we feel like we got our act together. And guys in red are out being hero. Everybody's very nurturing here. Late Sunday night, early Monday morning, which is nice. Early Monday morning, here's the trine to Uranus. And the eclipse at 8:30. Yeah. So sleep late Monday morning. You don't want to even if you can't see it in the sky, it's everywhere. It permeates our reality when you have an eclipse. I remember every minute of that last eclipse over on South Point, and the feeling of it. It was dreadful. All alone, cold, black. The birds stopped. Everything stopped. Just dead silence. That's not a good thing. So Monday, it's a reset. Got to reset your consciousness a little bit. Free it up to unusual thoughts. It trines Uranus. That's a good thing about it. And so, it's time to think out of the box. Maybe all those ancient civilizations knew something we don't. Is it possible that the Hindus, the Babylonians, the Egyptians, the Mayans, the Greeks, every Roman soldier knew his chart. So is it possible all those ancient civilizations were all wrong? And astrology is a silly superstition? We still treat they say these ancient religions talk about planets. We translate that to gods and say, these are savages worshiping many gods. Makes me want to barf. Got to open up for new information, folks. Well, you guys already have. You're watching the show. Hooray for you. You're ahead of your time, though. It's difficult living in this culture. Very difficult. It's difficult for me. So, amazing Sunday. Flashes of intuition come along with a somewhat horrible feeling. And here in the middle of it, the moon goes by Mercury. And Mercury's retrograde, Yes. So, the moon goes by Mercury late Monday night. There it is over here, because Mercury's going backwards. See, going this way. Goes from 10 degrees back to 2. But when it starts, and you're going to feel it Monday night, it's opposing Neptune. Water problems, communication problems, delusion, lies, deception, kids lost. This is not a good time. You'll probably recover on Tuesday. Whoops, look at that. I gave up and I had to go do the rest of this. Be back in a second. Okay, I'm back and I put my notes on board. Where was I? Let's just go back and start with the Saturn thing. Tuesday night, the moon squares Saturn on the 22nd. And you remember that Saturn stations up ahead on the 25th. That's when he's strongest. So here's the moon squaring him when he's at his most strong, maybe the most vicious. You could say this is when the SHIT hits the fan. And some people are going to, kind of snap over this. They'll feel all closed in. And our country is having a problem. And I'll get into this. Let's finish the personal work here first. So watch out for Tuesday night, Wednesday morning. Drink a lot of water. Don't let yourself get depressed. If you do, put your mind on something else. Mellows out a little bit about noontime on Wednesday when there's a sextile to Venus. There could be a little pleasure and fun around there someplace. After your Tuesday night, Wednesday morning depression, you watch what happens to the market Wednesday morning after people are scared. Gold goes up. Everybody wants to go buy gold. If Jupiter stops in the sky, everybody sells their gold and the price goes down. That's a secret. Anyway, okay, the moon shifts into Libra. And when it does, where are we? Here we are. Wednesday afternoon goes into Libra, just about the time you get the sextile to Venus. So, could be kind of mellow. Libra is Venus's sign, you know. Wednesday, calm down. Thursday morning, probably still calm, too. On the 24th. Of course, you know Saturn's getting slower, and the depression's more. Drink more water. Saturn dries things out and makes them smaller. Normally, it can make things cold, too, but, of course, not in our season. So here's the square to Pluto. Eek a bug, it's Thursday. You know, our trials and tribulation days have moved from Friday, Saturday back to Thursday, Friday. They go back one day each month. So it's going to start for you with a little panickiness at dinner time, just after dinner Thursday, the 24th, when the moon squares Pluto. And then it goes by Jupiter. This is about 2 o'clock in the morning, Friday, the 25th. And there's a lot of expansion and overdoing things and laughing and such, and there's a sextile to Saturn. So here's the lawyers and the rich people saying, hooray, the judge made we passed the law that'll make us all rich. That's what this is, Jupiter and Saturn. Saturn's the guys in the dark suits, the politicians, the managers. Jupiter is the lawyers, the CEOs, the rich people. So you could say they're in collusion here when Jupiter and Saturn are in real sextile like that. And you'll see it Thursday night, Friday morning. We finally got a medical thing passed, and we're taking it away from 50 million people. And with all the money we say, we're going to give it to the rich. Whew. Anyway, moon in Libra. It'll oppose Uranus, and they don't give a hoot for the homeless or for science. Everybody's against science Friday night, and there could be some shakings. There could be some twirlies. We could have hurricanes, tornadoes, and sudden power blackouts here Friday night as the moon opposes Uranus. Saturday, the moon slips into Scorpio. The vibes all change. There's a nice sextile to the sun. In the morning, we got ambition. We got projects. Let's get going. As you go into Saturday late, well, here's Neptune. Neptune is inspiration and music, party Saturday night. Yeah, well, we got a plan. And Sunday we feel powerful as a sextile to Pluto. We controlled it all, didn't we? Yeah, we sure did. Sunday night, here's a trine to Mars. The guys in red are happy. It's their sports Sunday night. We're all feeling heroic. Saturday, Sunday. Wasn't an easy Thursday, Friday, but it came out of it pretty good, hopefully. Now, let's talk a little bit more about this eclipse and what's going on with it. Okay, here's the way my astrology program shows the eclipse. The red line is where it's totally 100%. This black line is 75%, and here this black line is 75%. So down here it's 50%. Half of the sun is going to be out, but the path of total darkness runs along here. And I don't know why. I wish I knew the answer of why the ancients said, don't look at it, sleep through it. Your own body organism can be affected by this, because you've got the media and scientists and astronomers. Oh yeah, astronomers really know all about the health effects of an eclipse. Astronomers are kind of like the fake doctors in my business. You know, they get all the headlines. Oh, there's some new planet out there 18 billion miles away. It only cost you $40 trillion supporting astronomers who generally think astrology is superstition. Too bad. But they get the money And they got the media, and they're not happy with that. And I can say so. Ben Franklin, blamed the demise of astrology in the U.S. and Europe on three people. They were like Haley and Whiston and Newton. These guys were all astronomers who spent a lot of time building telescopes and going through them. They weren't. Now, Newton was a closet astrologer. He was into alchemy. And they found a manuscript with 1 million words, all in astrological things, all about alchemy. He got poisoned by mercury. I did a little alchemy. I also got poisoned by mercury once in the Dow Chemical Lab. But I digress. Upshot is, Whiston and Ben said, against their own consciousness, these men failed to defend astrology. So anyway, the astronomers are leading you astray. And they say, don't look at it and only use this or you might go blind. Jeez. They've got you all out there looking for it. There's so much hype around this place of totality that all of these motels and hotels have filled up because of the hype of astronomers. Oh, this is once in a century. You got to see this. No, you don't got to see this. Hide from it. My God, it's a full solar eclipse. Frankly, I hope Mr. Trump hides from it and goes into full defense. It's very close to his rising sign. Don't look at it, Donald. Sleep through it. Okay, let's talk about Neptune a little bit. The USA government and the military is addicted to Neptune. Neptune is oil. These are tankers from Saudi Arabia. This was on Yahoo. And a funny thing happened there. They're talking about 500,000 barrels a day of oil comes in from Saudi Arabia. And apparently the Saudis are cutting back a little bit on this. And so there's some concern, we could lose our oil. Fell to their lowest from the imports of 524,000 barrels a day. So these guys are bringing in Saudi oil, 500,000 barrels a day of it, folks. That's a lot. That's a lot. By the way, Russia also exports a lot of oil. We buy a lot of oil from Russia. And all this hype about fracking for gas, just like a burp, there's not much to it. The gas supply runs out quick. We're hung up on oil. You can run your car, your house, everything without oil, without hydrocarbons. But the military needs the heavy fuels. That's one of the driving forces on this whole thing. Let me show you what's going on. Here's the U.S. chart on the inside. Progressions to August 25th eclipse are on the outside. And what you find, the progressed ascendant, which only moves 1 degree per year, is at 2111, opposing the Mars in the U.S. chart. Now, Mars is the military and fighting and anger and guns and all that. We're a very aggressive country. Mars has a square to Neptune. Neptune is oil. 21 to 22 degrees. The progressed moon went by there 2 months earlier than this. You're hearing about it now. But the ascendant, oh boy, opposing Mars, somebody's going to fight. They're going to fight over oil maybe, huh? Yeah, the progressions don't look good. And then I go a little further. And let's just look at the Saturn station itself. Because now around the edge, I still got the U.S. chart in the center here. Gemini rising chart. And I got the planets in the sky here now. Progressions are based on a year for a day. It's a way to look at the big, slow-moving stuff. Transits are what's in the sky now. And Saturn, and all these other big planets all move the same way. They go forward 3 steps, back a step. Forward 3 steps, back a step. They make little loops. And when they slow down and stop, something, something that isn't well known amongst so-called astrologers, they stop, they get super powerful. And you know now that Saturn is stopping. Where's it stopping? It's stopping at 21 degrees. 21 degrees opposes the U.S. Mars. Here's the Great Bear fighting with us and squares Neptune. Saudi Arabia has cut down on our oil. You know, if Russia gets ticked off and cuts down on the oil, probably there's going to be a fight. So Saturn at 21 degrees, progressed moon, progressed ascendant at 21 degrees, all of it setting off our worst addiction. Our biggest problem, Mars squaring Neptune. What's Neptune? Doctors, drugs, oil, chemistry, plastics, pesticides. That's what Neptune is. So, no fun. And here's Mars now, the military, saying, what are we going to do for fuel for our big war machine? I'm not sure. But you're sure are threatened. Sure are threatened. So the transiting planets are kind of like triggers. They move faster. And now we know that Saturn's stopping at 21. So this station here is like a fast-moving trigger on that whole big progression matter. And you know, too, that the moon hits that square to Saturn here Tuesday night, Wednesday morning. And now you know that all of this hassle threatens the oil. Yes. That's kind of scary. Well, I think Mars is the scary one, you know. And we could easily fall into a war mode here when Saturn opposes the USA Mars. So this is not a fun time or an easy time. Yeah, I wish I could be more uptone. And but even a more complete set of data on this won't help. You know, the stuff's going to happen. There's no way out. I'm sorry.